Hey guys, what is up? AwesomeTheSauce here. Hope you guys are having a great day. And today we're going to be talking about all of the new gear updates that just happened in Wizard101's brand new update. If you go to my man's Louise, you can see this for yourself. There's some good things, there's some bad things. It gets a little crazy, so let's get right into it. One thing right away that's really important to note is that Aeon gear, which currently is the best gear in the game at max level, it just got even better. So they kind of tweaked it a little bit. They removed Shad Chance, and in place of Shad Chance, they added Pip Chance. For example, right, I'm running the Aeon robe right now. I used to have 100% Pip Chance with this setup, but because of this update, now I have 107. Now, what this might actually mean is that the more offensive your school is, the better this update is for you. Because if you guys didn't know, a lot of offensive schools, they all share one thing in common. It's the fact that they have lower accuracy, and very often you have to affix an accuracy jewel to make up for it, and when you do that, your pip chance suffers because this is an accuracy slot that could be a pip slot. Essentially, now there is no longer a way for you to fizzle or pip fail at max level. If you have all the gear, you're not really trading off anything with Aeon gear, especially in PvP. If y'all don't know how Shad Chance works, the way that it works is it's based on your opponent's rating as well. If everybody collectively runs less Shad Chance, the actual rate at which you get shadow pips does not change. Like, if you had a high Shad Chance and your opponent has a low one, then it would change. But now everyone is probably going to gravitate towards its gear. It shouldn't really change pacing. It should just make pip chance and accuracy way easier to get at max level. This change is also a thing that was applied onto Merciless gear. It seems like Merciless gear also got certain stat buffs that are related to the most recent change in identity for a lot of the schools. Now, this change goes from level 160 all the way down to like level 100, level 50. We're talking about Chrysalis gear, we're talking about Malistaire gear. So at every level, right, your gear should complement your school identity more. Ice should be getting more resist, fire and myth should be getting more pierce. You can experiment with those gear sets, but basically the best gear at every level is now more gravitating towards your school identity. It should be more balanced, especially now that pip chance and accuracy are easier to get. Now, I am a little concerned about the extra pip chance that you're getting on very many schools, because all that means is that some schools, especially the ones that don't actually need the extra pip chance, we're talking about the less offensive schools, they can do things like affix bubbles. You could be looking at a meta where an ice could run a blimp pet that gives 235 bubbles, and then they can run another 35 bubble by affixing it to their jewels, basically, because they don't need pip chance anymore. I'm pretty sure that with the best gear set, Life can actually run 120 pip chance, meaning they could affix 2 sanctuary jewels and run a pet that gives sanctuary for a grand total of like 11 bubbles that aren't even hitting bubbles. So that could cause a lot of issues. I'm also a little worried about the fact that if you don't need to run accuracy on your pet, everybody could run like an armor breaker, double resist dealer pet, and then just put 2 wards on. So yes, it's very convenient when you have extra pip chance and extra accuracy. This could cause all kinds of issues with the meta. I hope that we get time to experiment with this, and I hope they're open to feedback, because this is a shakeup. Now you're probably wondering, King's Owl giving you free stats, there must be a catch. There really is, y'all, and this is the bad that I was talking about. It is now extremely hard to craft any of this gear. I feel like I made so many videos talking about this, and I still feel like this just feels like a gigantic screw you. On the bright side, you don't have to mindlessly get polygons. It used to be 50 polygons per like gear piece. Now it's only 20. This is ground loot. You can get this very easily, but you might notice that in order to actually craft the Aeon gear, you need 67 pixels. This is dropped from bosses. Now, the final boss apparently is supposed to drop you 4 pixels every time. That's still like, what? Like 15 to 20 runs, give or take. I don't know. I don't know if it's a guaranteed drop. I assume it is, because it's so much higher as a requirement. And you also need 7 pieces of masterpiece gear in order to craft 1 Aeon piece. The only good news is once you get an Aeon piece, you can just transmute it almost right into an Eternal piece. That seems to be a decent thing, but the actual requirement to craft this is way higher than I even thought they would go for. If you have multiple wizards, you just got punished hard for not getting this gear early. I would not feel great about this if I had a lot of wizards and I didn't have all the gear that I already needed. Now, from preliminary investigation, what I've heard is if you actually go to the Nucleus Gallery, there are 2 places where you can farm this pretty quickly. It's not exactly foolproof, but it should be more guaranteed drops than before. The 2 spots of interest are if you actually need the hat or the robe or anything that drops from the final boss, do this boss. You'll get 4 pixels every run. And if you need the ring or you're just done getting all the final boss gear, you should farm the dueling space. This should give 3 pixels every run. What does this mean? That means that there is less RNG, and in some ways, that's a good thing. Before, you needed to get your school's masterpiece gear in order to craft eternal gear, and that's really dumb. You're locked into getting one school-specific drop. That is no longer a thing. However, now you're pretty much guaranteed to spend a lot of time crafting all the gear, a ton of time. For a lot of people to grind this update seems to be excessive. This seems like it's not really rectifying that situation, and instead it's keeping the status quo and maybe patching up a few blatant problems with it, like having to get one specific piece. That's not what I really wanted in this update. I think a lot of people didn't want that, but that's just how it is. Now, one thing that really changed this update is that they actually added stats to raid gear. And this is really interesting to me. I don't really understand why this happened, but now you actually get a lot of extra stats on your nullity blade. You get accuracy added on, so I guess they replace the shat chance with accuracy on this as well, meaning only eternal gear is actually giving shat chance now. I don't really know how important the shat chance is gonna be. I feel like it isn't that important depending on, you know, exactly what the difference between your shat chance and your opponent's shat chance are, but that does mean that the best one in the game is somewhat better. I mean, accuracy, you're never gonna go wrong with that. It literally frees up a whole pet talent. But once again, there's a catch. If you want to upgrade your raid gear, you now need 67 pixels. I think this is probably the worst part of this update because there is no pity system already when it comes to raid gear. You either get your Balancer over the Void or you don't. So with that problem still apparent in the raid system, even though they fixed it in the main areas that you can farm for gear, with that still in place, why in the world did they raise the cost of pixels? This should have been a 0 upgrade option. I really don't know what they're doing with this. This is actually starting to get me a little annoyed. When we started with getting raid gear updated, the promise was that it would be a 0 investment upgrade. Raid gear is already insanely hard for people to get. It's insanely inaccessible for a lot of people. Some people are lucky to have a couple of pieces of raid gear. You're telling me now, after getting that raid gear that's literally under leveled at level 150, you now need to do 67 pixels of farming, and you have to get 20 polygons, and you have to be lucky enough to get the drop that you need in order to get the 160 version? I'm an extremely not a fan of changes that reward people that have been playing before the update takes place. This seems to happen a little too much. I feel like this was not well thought out at all. But now, like, people are going to be even more discouraged to do raids because now they know that not only do they have to get the piece that they need, now there's 67 pixels worth of farming. That's going to be annoying for them. Overall, yes, there's less RNG in this update, but I think it makes parts of the problems worse, and it does nothing to reduce the amount of grinding you'll have to do as a casual player. And I think that's what disappoints me the most. I don't think that they needed to make this such a grind to begin with, and I don't know why they're doubling and sometimes even tripling down on requiring the regular player to farm so much just to get the best gear. Do I like the extra stats? Yes, but I'm saying this from the perspective of someone who already has the gear, and that's why I'm frustrated most of all. Let me know what you guys think about this. Have you guys been waiting for this change, and therefore have you not been farming and you feel like this is just stupid? Do you come at this from the perspective of someone who has gear, and how do you feel about it then? Maybe there are people that like this change. Definitely tell me if you do too. I want to hear agreements, disagreements, all that jazz. As always, y'all, drop a like if you enjoyed. Y'all, this is a big update. There's actually more than one video to make on this, so make sure you turn on noties. I want to hear all of y'all's comments in the comment section below, so I'll read all of them. Stay awesome, y'all. See y'all soon, and yeah.